WHP 580 News 8 Storm Team forecast.
And we started off the morning, temperatures widespread across the region, at or below freezing. So it was a chilly, frosty start to our morning. However, going through the rest of today, we'll be rising up into the middle 50s, still below average, cool and breezy as we're waiting for the next cold front to arrive. Clouds will arrive later this evening, but for the most of today, actually, it's going to be pretty sunny. Tonight, mostly cloudy, and we see some clearing later towards daybreak tomorrow. And tomorrow, clouds and sunshine with a high of 54. From the News 8 Storm Team, I'm meteorologist Matthew Moore on WHP 580.
All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Oh, boy. Welcome to the show. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. We got lots of stuff to talk about. Let's see. We've got the the call to impeach the Attorney General. We can talk about that today. They also just handed me this news story about a guy who ran back into his house to save his beer. The best quote about it is, the guy with a cane goes back and he says, I went back into the house like a dummy and the door shut on me because of this backdraft was about to kill me. Being an alcoholic, I was trying to get my beer out. You feel me? He said the guy whose name was Serpent. I don't even know how that's really actually news, but it does remind me of a childhood story involving a burning car, beer, and the police. Now, we'll tell that maybe in the next hour. 540-0580 if you want to get on the air and get your legal questions answered. We'll talk about them. I also had a jury trial in Dauphin County this week. Jury acquitted a person on a serious drug offense. And if any of the jurors are listening, as sometimes is the case, I welcome you to call in and talk about it. I'm always curious to hear what things I did right and what things I did wrong, so we can talk about those as well. The Supreme Court obviously is back in session, so they're up to no good as usual. We can talk about that as well. And then, of course, in Saudi Arabia, there was a major roadblock to women driving still, and that's in the news as well. So we can always talk about that. I always think of Sarah Palin when I think of the Saudis not letting women drive for some reason. 540-0580. That's our report on the theocracy. Olivia, you're on the air. How are you?
Hello?
Hello, Olivia.
Okay, how are you today, sir?
Very good. And yourself?
I'm blessed and highly favored. Mr. Rominger, I want to know what is the difference between Medicaid and Medicare, please?
Well, there's a lot of differences, but I'll explain it this way. Basically, Medicare is something that anybody who lives long enough can get, okay?
Okay.
You get to a certain age, you become Medicare eligible.
Okay.
Sort of think of it as part of your Social Security package. It's the original government health care.
Okay.
So Social Security is your wage replacement, and Medicare pays for your medical insurance, okay?
Okay.
Now, Medicaid is for the poor or people who can't otherwise qualify for Medicare and have no money. So Medicaid fills in the gap for people who have needs but no. So think of it as a form of welfare, more traditional form of welfare, needs-based.
Okay, I thank you, sir.
All right.
It was a good, quick explanation. You have a good day, and God bless you and your family.
You too. Thank you. A very simple explanation as well. I didn't get too in-depth because, quite frankly, the differences are astronomical. And if we had our good friend Fred Haight, who was on last weekend, who seems to know more about disability areas, or if we had Dave Nesbitt on, either one of those two could probably profoundly tell you a lot more than I can. Dennis, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. How's it down there in Dillsburg?
Hello?
Hey, hello?
Hi. I'm calling in. My wife's family has a farm, and back in 2006, we went... Hello? You still there?
No, I'm not here. Dennis, we're here. Keep talking, buddy.
Sorry. Back in 2006, we set up a trust fund to keep the farm exposed from nursing home expenses. The father passed away like 4 years ago, and now the mom is in a nursing home.
Okay.
And we're actually probably trying to put this trust into effect, and now we're finding out that it is not in the right type of trust.
Right. You're in a living trust instead of a irrevocable trust?
Yes, it's in a revocable instead of irrevocable.
Yes.
But when we went in 2006, we had notes from the attorney saying that that's what we wanted, but that's not how he set it up.
So your attorney may have committed malpractice, right? Is that kind of where you're headed here?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, potentially, yeah. I mean, if somebody comes into me and they say, "Carl, build me a shield from, having to give our parents' property to the government," and assuming I can do it all lawfully, and assuming it could be done, and I don't do the stated goal. So, I would want to see the correspondence between you and the attorney. Obviously, though, I'm not sure why you would set up. I'm not a big fan of revocable trusts in Pennsylvania. So I'm always curious when people want to do them because they really don't, in my mind, change a lot with our probate laws. Whereas irrevocable trusts obviously are designed for a lot of good purposes, particularly for sharing wealth through generations, et cetera, et cetera.
We just want to keep the farm. They can have whatever money they have,
Right.
but we're just trying to keep the farm and the family. She has twin brothers, and I have a son that would like to continue with it.
Here's the problem. You may be too late now, right? Because if you try to do anything now, you're inside look-back periods. So, yeah, I think you need to sit down with another attorney, take a look at what was done, take a look at what should have been done and what your options are, okay?
Okay.
My thought on the matter is Keystone Elder Law in Camp Hill, Dave Nesbitt there.
We did go to an elder care there along Route 15.
Okay.
I'm not sure the name offhand.
And is that who you consulted with recently?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if they think they can help you, I would let them help you. And if they don't want to handle the malpractice aspects of it, I'd be happy to take a look at that for you and either handle it or find somebody who can handle it. I know an attorney in Harrisburg that's doing some legal malpractice cases.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd love to. Hey, it's worth a chance. Just look at it, see what happens, or we'll go from there.
Absolutely. As with any malpractice claim, attorney malpractice, doctor malpractice, any kind of professional malpractice claim, you look at it this way. You have to see what could have been done, what was done, and what, if you did the right thing, would it have made a difference, okay?
Right.
And then, of course, you also, and would it have made a difference is always the big one. Because sometimes, no matter how much the professional botches it up, you can't prove that it would have made a difference. But sometimes you can. And hopefully they have malpractice coverage. All right, my friend.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you. 540-0580. Randy down in York, what's going on, my friend?
Not a whole lot. Now, how about you, Carl?
I'm going to go see chess tonight at Lebanon Valley College. And that's pretty much it, my big plan for the day.
Well, that sounds good. My question for you, my wife, her dad passed away. She ended up buying her mother's home. At the time, we weren't married. My credit sucked from a previous divorce, so it was decided just to put the house in her name.
Okay.
Since we've gotten married, so the house is still in her name, mortgage is still in her name. Am I entitled to, do I own half of that house? If I don't, what do I have to do to do it?
Well, to own half the house, so to speak, or whatnot, you would really need to bring it fully into the marital fold. Basically, though, even if you did that, okay, she's still going to be able to claim a credit. Like I brought the house to the marriage, and it was worth $100,000, right? And now it's worth $150,000, so the $50,000 is a marital share. So unless now she puts you on the deed jointly, and you guys merge, and long time goes on, I guess you could somehow try to make a claim that she was giving all that value to the marital estate. But I still think she's going to get a basis in it for purposes of hashing things out later in equitable distribution. But what are you trying to accomplish? You're getting ready to bail, and you want to make sure you get as much out of it as possible, or are you just thinking long term? What's the plan? Oh, we lost him. We lost him. Is he back? Yeah, he's back. Randy, you back? No. Yeah. Randy, you're on the air.
Yes, Carl. Yeah, I'm on my cell phone in Allentown, so I lost you for a second there.
Okay, I was just asking, are you bailing out of the marriage and you're just trying to take as much with you as possible, or is this some non-nefarious long-term thing?
No, the marriage is fine and everything. It's just the mother-in-law keeps casting it up that I don't own any of the house, and I'm getting to the point where I'm really getting the craps of hearing it. and I want to find out if I am correct or not.
How does that even come up in conversation? That's what I want to know.
You don't want to know, Carl. Trust me.
You know,
this is a mother-in-law that fits the stereotype.
Right. By the way, you're not good enough for my daughter. I just want to remind you of that. Would you like some more mashed potatoes?
Yeah. She hates me about as much as she loves. I don't know, fire.
That's pretty funny. All right, my friend. Well, my thought, kind of what I was telling you is, I mean, you can get fully on the deed and integrate everything, but and you will own it. And then if your wife passes away, it'll be 100% yours, and your mother-in-law won't have anything to say about it. On the other hand, if you guys get divorced, there could still be a hash out as to who gets credit for bringing that asset to the marriage, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to be clearly marital property once your name is put on there. Okay?
What about now?
Right now, you're entitled to the increase in the value during the marriage. So that portion of it's at least marital property. Okay?
But am I more an owner, a half owner, or am I more a renter?
No, you're an equitable owner. Let me put it to you this way. If your wife tried to sell that house right now and I was the title attorney on the buyer's side, as I sometimes am, I would want your signature on the deed. So what does that tell you?
Yes.
All right, boss.
Yeah. Another kind.
I got to go to break. Hold on. 540-0580. See you after the break.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Well, welcome back here, Carl Rominger. Coming at you live from the what kind of studios are these days? Do they have a moniker or no? No special moniker for the studio. Sometimes it's the who something studio, and sometimes it's the something my bathtub studio. Randy, you're back on the air. Hey, Randy.
Hey, Carl.
All right, shoot that second question out.
Can my wife sign my name, like to deposit a check?
If you authorize her to.
Yeah, well, what happened was there's a repair for my car. The insurance company sent us the check. It's in my name, her name, and the repair shop. They had to shell out quite a large sum of money to get the part for the car, and they wanted the check early. Called the insurance company. Insurance company had no problem doing it. I was out of town, so I just told her, just sign my name on it so that they can get their money in the bank so they can get reimbursed for the part.
If you authorized her, you authorized her.
Yeah, well, the bank had a real problem with it. They had to go in. She had to get a notarized, and both of us have our signatures notarized. They just made it a living hell to get this check deposited for this company.
Well, that's the bank being squirrely.
Okay.
All right, Randy?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, they're just trying to. They just want to make sure it's not fraud. But yeah, and if I was talking to the bank, I'd be like, do you believe that all those things that come in the mail with people's signatures on were actually signed by the person, where they look like a rubber stamp? No, it's authorization, and that's what matters. But the bank's just worried because sometimes couples don't have each other's authorization, particularly on insurance checks, tax return checks, and other things, and then they cash it or they run off with it, and then they leave the other person, and the bank goes, well, we're sorry. So they don't want to be in that bad position either, okay, to be fair to them.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, boss.
Have a great day.
540-0580. Federal prosecutors recently, the way it reads right here is, Department of Justice for the first time has notified a criminal defendant that evidence being used against him came from a warrantless wiretap, a move that is expected to set up a Supreme Court test of whether eavesdropping is constitutional. Prosecutors filed such a notice late Friday in the case of Hashmid Muratov, I don't know, who was charged in Colorado in January 2012 with providing material support to the Islamic Jihad Union, a designated terrorist organization based in Uzbekistan. So more than we need to know there, but long and short of it is they're now letting him know that there was some sort of warrantless wiretap done on him, probably came from the NSA or some such thing. Maybe they're looking for a court ruling on it. Kind of interesting. Because traditionally, we know they've been holding back evidence. We've talked about this on the show where the DEA, for instance, is doing database searches and then telling the officers that they give the information to lie about where they found it. We know the NSA is doing the same thing. Now it looks like maybe they're going to come out of the closet, so to speak, here and try to test and see what a court does. Hopefully the Supreme Court slaps them down, but you can't always bet on it. Chris, you're on WHP 580. What do you want to talk about?
I have a question about flood insurance.
Okay. What about it?
Okay. I lived in my house for 12 years, never a drop of water. All of a sudden, that leak came through in 11,
Right.
and I had to buy flood insurance. So, it costs about $1,000 a year, and I paid for it for the first year because they don't give you any time. I mean, when you got to get it, you got to get it. I knew that I could go to the surveyor and get an elevation certificate, but I couldn't afford it at the time. So I paid for the first full year, and now my flood insurance was due again in September.
Okay.
I paid it, but this time I got a surveyor, and his survey papers show that I am out of the flood zone. I sent them back to FEMA and everything, and all that's going to go okay, but I want to know, can I recoup what I paid for the flood insurance from last year?
I don't think you can recoup what you paid the year before. I really don't, because the policy period's over.
Right.
But if
I never needed it in the first place and they were wrong, right?
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that one. It seems to me because you had the duty to provide the certification. You probably fell within. Well, here's how I'm guessing it works, and this is just a guess. You fell within the area where it's required unless you produce the following.
Okay.
That's my theory. Now, of course, once you cancel this year's premium that you paid, you should get a refund for all the time period that's not covered, right?
Right.
So
right, yeah.
At least
I'll get the money back for this year, but not last year.
Not last year. I don't think so. You can ask. I mean, I'll just call them up and ask how it works. But my suggestion is you're going to find that not to be the case. But but for that amount of money, for $1,000, you certainly could go to Google for 25 minutes and try to read up on it.
Okay.
All right.
And I mean, and if they tell me no, is it worth me going to my attorney and having them write a letter? I mean, I'm willing to write at least have a letter written and stop there.
The answer is I would want to know. I don't do some research. If you came to see me before, I could write the letter. Here's how we could do it. We could do it two ways, right? Let's go in blind. So we'll just write them a letter and say, give us back our money or else. And then maybe they send you a check, or maybe they just ignore it. But I would really want to actually do an hour's worth of research and say, here's a letter, and here's why you have to give us back the money, and here's the case, and here's the theory, and do it or else. And then they go, oh, okay, well, maybe we hadn't heard that one before. On the other hand, they may still ignore you. And worse, I may do the research and come back to you and tell you, remember that suspicion I told you about on the radio where I figured this is how it works? Well, that's how it works, and you can't get your money back.
Okay.
All right? So think about it. But I would do some research on Google yourself first just to see how it works. I don't think FEMA and big companies like that, you don't write them letters and they send you $1,000 because the lawyer wrote the letter, okay?
Yeah, right.
That works on small fish. All right.
All right.
Thanks, man. 540-0580. Larry, you're on the air, Larry.
How are you?
Not too bad. Not too
Good.
bad.
I'm on a mobile traveling in a car, so I'll try to keep it short.
All right.
I moved into the current property about 25 years ago, and about 20 years ago I planted a hedgerow on my north boundary based upon assumption by my neighbor at that time and myself where the property line was good. We could not find the stakes. However, the stakes were present at every other place. Now the third owner is in that property, and last year I decided to get the north boundary of my property surveyed to be sure that those hedges were on my property. Well, they turned out to be on my property, fortunately. The west end of that property line on the north side, the hedges are just inside the property line about a foot, but on the east end of that north line, the hedges are on my property at least 5 feet.
Okay.
My question is this. The current neighbor has been using my property, storing stuff up against the hedges on my property line, and then she put in what I call a temporary fence because it can be just pushed in and pulled back out again.
Okay.
A fence, and actually put it on my side of the property line. Now, based on the township ordinances, fences can be off the property line or right on the property line. My question is, what do I need to do to notify her to have that fence put on her side of the property line?
Well, I mean, you can walk over and knock on her door and explain all that to her. That's step one.
I tried that, but knowing even she's home, she never answers the door.
Okay. Then what I would do then is write her a letter, and sometimes having an attorney write the letter works.
Well, I didn't want to go to the expense of attorney at this point.
So write her a letter and send it, return receipt requested, so you have proof she got it, and kindly ask her to move her fence and explain the whole scenario. If she doesn't do that, then it's time to go to the attorney because you can go to court and enforce that. If you let her keep the fence there after 21 years, it'll be her land.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, my friend. I'm going to go to break here in a second, but Matt, you might appreciate this. Like, you know what the scariest thing that happens to me is when a girl asks me what Deadspin is. Yeah, you're right. Like, you saw that? Oh, okay. Anyhow, 540-0580 when we get back from the break. But if you need to liquidate a estate or business, I recommend you call RJ Gold Auctions. He can buy outright or sell you items at auction. RJ Gold can be reached at 645-0061. He purchases outright items such as medals, pins, patches, tokens, awards, and badges, and most historical collectibles. He can pay you right away. RJ is booking on-site auctions for November and December. To schedule your auction, call RJ Gold 645-0061. PA licensed auctioneer AU 005798. And on November 14th, Fred Haight, A.J. Palutis, and Carl Rominger, me too, will be holding a free workers' comp seminar. I know nothing about workers' comp, but they're going to talk about it. The first seminar will be at 3 p.m., while the second will begin at 5 p.m. Both are absolutely free. These will take place at 1 East High Street in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. For information, visit paworkerscomphelpnow.com.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Oh, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Oh, boy. Jerry, what's going on, my friend? Jerry.
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, let's see. We got involved in an accident over a year ago in August, and a girl rear-ended a lady behind us and drove her into us. My wife was taken to the hospital by ambulance, and when I went into the hospital, we both had x-rays, and then they called me back and said, you need to come in and get more x-rays, which I did. We did a lot of running around and getting the car fixed. Now, her company paid for the car to get fixed. My insurance company paid for all the medical things up so far, and I guess they'll go after her insurance company. But because of we had to go to rehab, and we made trips after trips to different places for the medicals and the doctor's offices and the visits, and there was a lot of hassle. I couldn't work for a while, and she couldn't work. My wife couldn't take care of the house for a while as normal because of the injury.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I contacted her insurance company several times, and they kept messing me around for quite a while. And finally, I found out that they had violated one of the sections, which meant that they had to notify us within 45 days, every 45 days, when they were continuing this case to check our background. Well, they violated that twice, which they didn't notify us until I would call them, and then they'd say, oh, yeah, well, and then they'd send me a letter that we were being notified. Finally, and they sent it through 4 different agents from their company. Now, they finally sent us a message. They called us and said, we have a plan to pay you for your pain and suffering, and it didn't seem like it would be enough for what we went through.
Right.
Is there some way to say, hey, I don't think this is right?
Yeah, it's called, you should do what most people do. Don't handle your own personal injury claim. That's why you go see a lawyer.
Yeah.
You see, here's what's going through your head. And I'm going to beat up on you here for a second, right? Honey, I'm smart. All I'm going to do is get out. Them attorneys want to take a third or whatever they get you. So I'm going to go and do it all on my own, and I'm going to save the attorney's fee and come out ahead. Right? And that what went through your head? Right?
Do I what?
You figured you could save on the attorney's fees by doing it on your own, right?
Well, I hadn't thought of anything about attorney fees. I wanted to see what they were going to make an offer, but it's been over a year, and I finally was getting upset, so I called them, and they made this offer, which I hadn't given a thought. I didn't know what they were going to offer.
Right.
Anyway.
And what I'm trying to tell you, though, is this, okay? There's a reason why when my car stops working, I don't just pick up the hood and start tinkering around and down in there because I'm really not qualified, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You want to get with a personal injury case in with an attorney right away for a couple of reasons. Number one, the earlier you make your claim and the more professionally you make your claim, the more potential reserves you can cause to be set aside for your claim by the insurance company. That becomes important for negotiations later. Number two, you're probably going to undervalue your claim. some people way overvalue their claims. You know, we have people that want millions of dollars for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you hear me?
And that's not the case here.
No.
In this case, I just think that we should get a fair amount.
Trouble. I'm
and
getting
they're
sound here,
offering
Matt.
a couple $1,000s. So.
There I go. Huh? Okay, I lost you there first. Yeah, they overvalue their claims for. Just a second. Hold on. I got to reset myself here. The headphones were turned off somehow. Okay, so basically, long story short, yeah, some people are way overvalue the claims, but actually most people undervalue their claim. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably don't realize this, but you're probably owed a lot more money. Now, you're probably catching on here and you see this offer. But I always use the example. I had a police officer that came to me, and he had a motor vehicle accident. And, you know, he knew me from court and knew I did this kind of work. And he got him up to $1,000, you know, I think $5,000, okay? And the statute of limitations came up. And, by the way, they weren't going to warn – they don't have to warn you, nor will they warn you about the statute of limitations. They'll just keep –
That's 2 years, right?
Right. But they'll keep talking with you. And if the statute goes by, you know, the statute goes by, and then the next time you call them up, they say, sorry, it's over. You can't collect anything anymore. But anyhow, he was monitoring it. He got close to the statute, and he came to me, and he said, you know, I can't get these guys up off $5,000, and I feel like it's worth more. You know, and I took over the case, and a week later, I had him up to $17,000. Now, how did that happen? That happened because they know once you have a lawyer, you actually know what you're doing, and they take you more seriously. So my advice is come in, sit down with us. We'll look it over, figure out what they've offered you and figure out what you should be getting and take a look at, you know, what it's going to cost to get there. Okay?
Okay.
And I was only teasing you a little bit about the lawyers thing, but I get that a lot. People figure they're going to actually save money by not getting a lawyer involved in a personal injury accident. And a lot of times they do sometimes save a little money, but a lot of times they also give up a lot of money. They also a lot of times give up coverages they wouldn't even know about, or they screw up the availability of other coverages by settling with one. And so quite often, you know, an insurance company will come in and say, oh, we have a $25,000 policy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it and I say, well, that's interesting because I think you actually have a $75,000 policy, and let me explain why. And then when I win that fight, and it's happened so many times over the years that you know it's worth looking into, and then the insurance company goes, oh, it's 75. Well, then we'll offer 58. You know, so all of a sudden I've made my client an extra, you know, $33,000 that they would have thought they were getting the policy limit and thought they were doing as good as they could do. So just too many variables. And again, that's why I don't do my own car work, because even though I might be able to change my oil and I might be able to do a few minor things, when I'm looking down in there, I'm not going to spot all the other things that a good mechanic sees when he's just doing a routine repair and catches all the other stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry.
Well, I'm not into suing people, but I also don't want to lose anything because we did a lot of running and we did suffer our pains. And
Jerry, nobody's into suing anybody, okay? Nobody's really into suing anybody, but you've been paying money into auto insurance all your life, right?
Yes.
Where do you think that money goes, and what do you think it's for? It's to
exactly
pay
what
off
it's
people.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, pay off people's claims. And if you want to get a little of that money you gave them back, keeping in mind that, you know, we've talked about this before. In a person's lifetime, a lot of people will pay anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 in just auto insurance alone over the course of their lifetime. Some people a lot more than that. Okay.
Yeah.
You go to the auto insurance company and you say, I want $30,000 for my claim here. You're still not getting back all the money you've paid in your lifetime in insurance coverage. And they've had the benefit of the interest on it the whole time. Mm-hmm. Don't forget that. So don't feel bad for them. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
I don't. Thank you.
540-0580. Laura, thanks for holding on.
Hi.
Yep. What's going on?
A lot, but I had a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Can you explain what a quiet title is?
A quiet title action is an action to clean up a cloud on the title or a blemish or defect. So in a quiet title action, I would say there's an issue somehow, and I say, Judge, here's the problem. It looks like somebody didn't sign a deed in 1804, or it looks like somebody died, but there's no proof that they were divorced from their spouse at the time. So this could create an issue on the title, in the chain of title. There looks like there's a boundary dispute, and maybe the deed isn't going to be accurate. I'd like to, rectify all this. So quieting the title basically means what you think about, quieting it down, making it what it should be.
Is it an ethical or an honest way to acquire a clean deed to a piece of ground so that that land, which is in the entire family, descended from the original person who homesteaded that land, so that then that piece of ground can be sold so that the money from that sale can be used to fulfill bequeathments in the will of a person who married into that family and has deceased, and now her lawyer is saying they're going to file quiet title so that they can sell that. Then she had made cash bequeathments to my siblings and myself and my aunt and my mother and a neighbor. So she didn't have that much money in her estate to cover those cash bequeathments. So her lawyer thinks that he should sell that land and use that money to pay that other person.
If the land belongs to the estate, okay, it's an asset of the estate, then the estate can certainly sell the land to make bequeathments and residual distributions. Okay, nothing wrong with that.
Well, the land it's on the plat map as.
Well, I don't care what it's on a plat map. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
As
land ownership is who owns the land, and there's a lot of rules for that. And part of it is what's recorded at the courthouse. Part of it's what agreements exist, relationships, etc. And if there is a colorable title in the estate, okay, and the estate has the right to assert it, because an estate can assert all the same rights that a live person can, generally speaking. I'm catching this undercurrent here that, there seems to be something upsetting because you guys don't want land being taken out of the family, right?
Well, my understanding of it is that the rest of the family doesn't know that this action is taking place.
Right, but they
and they won't have the opportunity then to come forward and say, "Well, I'd like to keep it." And keep it available to the family.
Right. Well, you know about it, so write them all a letter.
Yeah,
all right?
I just don't have a contact for all of them.
Well, then who cares? If they're not paying, then you also be so interested in the land if they're not even in the area or in contact. All right, I got to go to break. 540-0580.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Let's see. What's in the news here? Greenpeace activist hangs from Eiffel Tower to push for release of detainees in Russia. Okay, I just want to point this out to you kids. Now, here in America, you can chain yourself to the doors and you can climb the trees and, build a tree house to try to keep them from cutting the tree down, whatever you want to do. And probably you're going to get in some trouble, okay, but not real trouble. You go over to countries like Russia and you climb up on one of their oil rigs, or you go to some Latin American country and decide to do some kind of sit-in somewhere. They will billy club you to death. They will charge you with pirating, as they did in the Russian case, although they're dropping that to hooliganism now. But they're not going to go easy on these guys. So, if you want to take it's fun to be civilly disobedient in America. In most of the world, it's not really ideal. So that's just a little legal advice. If you're thinking about committing an act of civil disobedience, keep it in the 50, probably the lower 48 for that matter. Not sure what they would do up there in Alaska. I've seen the kinds of people they've elected for governor up there. Tom, you're on WHP 580. What's going on? Hey, Tom.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Carl. I got a question to ask you here. Let's theoretically say I didn't have health insurance and I have some bad luck. I got a medical bill of $100,000. Could they put a lien on my property?
Yes, they can sue you. It's just like any other debt you incur.
Mm-hmm.
They can sue you, reduce it to judgment, execute against your property, sell off your property, levy your bank accounts. They cannot garnish your wages in Pennsylvania. And
but they would definitely go after the property.
And, yeah. Now, if you own it jointly with your wife and it's just your medical bill, they can't touch the joint property. We've talked about that concept before. But most importantly, it's just like any other debt, it can also be discharged in bankruptcy. So the two top causes of bankruptcy in America are catastrophic medical bills and divorce.
So basically, I have the right to file bankruptcy and keep my property?
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
If you have assets as part of the bankruptcy, the judge is going to say, whoa, back up the freight train. I'm not going to let you keep $500,000 in assets and not pay $200,000 in medical bills.
Right. I was just wondering about that.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, let me give it to you this way. Let's assume you do own a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth, I don't know, $300,000, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And your medical bills are $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
When you go bankrupt, you're going to be able to keep a lot of your stuff, and you're actually going to be able to get some portion of the house captured as an exemption. So you may end up walking with no debts and I think 20-some thousand in cash or some such thing from the house, the equity. So there's, and I'm not the bankruptcy expert. I usually send people to Scringy for that. But my point on all this is if you think about it in your head, it's the way you want to go. If you're medical, here's the answer. If you have $800,000 in medical bills or $100,000 in medical bills or even $50,000 in medical bills and no realistic hope of paying them down,
right?
The bankruptcy might be the better option because it gets you out from underneath it. And then a lot of times, most people, besides their catastrophic medical bills, also had incurred just normal debt loads that couples or individuals have, and those can be gotten rid of at the same time. So it becomes a good reset point.
Right.
Bad for your credit, but probably good for your long-term health.
Right. All right. Thank you, Carl.
All right, boss. Take care.
All right. Yep.
540-0580. Patty, you're on the air. Hey, Patty.
Oh, hi, Carl. My question for you is I have a very small yard with a 6-foot fence, and in the back of my yard where the fence is, it's all around the yard, I have a pad where I can park my vehicle.
Okay.
And my neighbor fell and hurt herself on this pad. Apparently, she was looking at a plant of mine. And my question is, what responsibility do I have if I do get sued for that?
Well, do you have homeowners insurance?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, if she makes a claim, you might even want to call your insurance agent and let them know about the potential injury.
Okay.
They'll come out and document some things. They will defend you. The answer is anytime there's premise liability and somebody trips on something or falls on something, we always ask the question like, why didn't you watch where you were walking, right?
Right.
And so
I can tell you how she fell. She told me that her dog's leash wrapped around her leg.
Well, so if her dog's leash wrapped around her leg, it sounds like her own negligence, right?
Correct.
And therefore, if she were to try to sue you, you would defend on the doctrine of what we call comparative negligence or no negligence from your behalf. You'd say basically, hey, I didn't do anything. She's 100% negligent. She has no claim whatsoever.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes. Thank you very much, Carl.
All right, no problem. Talk to that homeowner's insurance just to put them on notice and tell them what she told you, okay?
Okay, I will.
All right, you take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye. Matt, who's on 2? I don't have a name popped up there. Mark. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, Carl. Good afternoon to you. I just had a real quick question. I don't know if you've been following the big airline merger of U.S. Airways and American Airlines. Obviously, Attorney General Kaine has signed on to block it, and Eric Holder, the Department of Justice, has sued the airline to block the merger. Now, the trial's coming up here on the 25th of November. I just want to know your thoughts on it. Do you think they have a leg to stand on? I mean, the airline industry's been deregulated for the 70s, and now all of a sudden it's a big ordeal. What were your thoughts?
This is the one with what? With American Airlines and U.S. Air?
Correct.
Yeah, and I can never figure out if we're communists or if we're capitalists, And
sure.
what I mean by that is you learn, okay, we're capitalists and da-da-da, but we have minimum milk pricing and tobacco control pricing and bean control pricing and farm subsidies and then things like this, which is this idea that, well, if we let them merge, it will somehow hurt competition, okay? And so it all depends on how you come out on the question. Years ago in Alcoa versus the United States, they were claiming that Alcoa controlled 80% of the aluminum industry, and therefore they were a monopoly and needed to be, beaten back or something needed to be done to them, okay?
Sure.
And they successfully argued and said, no, wait a minute. We may control 80% of the aluminum, but aluminum competes with all kinds of other substances. So if we make a cooking pan, we compete with steel. If we make this, we compete with steel. If we make this, we compete with ceramic. And they convinced the United States Supreme Court that even though they controlled all the aluminum in the world, so to speak, or a lot of it, they didn't really necessarily control the markets for the aluminum because it was always in competition. So they couldn't effectively use, in other words, if you raised the price of aluminum, well, people would buy more steel pans. So they couldn't effectively, block markets that way. And that's kind of the inquiry here is will there still be competition? Will they be able to tighten you down? And the answer is, I don't think I'm in favor of them merging. Because I don't think it's a good idea to interfere with business unless you absolutely have to. I got to go to break, so that's my thought. Don't forget to start by Harrisburg Beer and Cigar over on Union Deposit Road. I was got to put a picture of one of those cigars up on Facebook last night. Great place to smoke one, too. Great lounge, great selection of beer. When I get back from the break, we'll take your legal questions for another hour, 540-0580. See you guys in a minute.